Hey guys, welcome back to Sports Around the Bar. Again, I'm a lonely fellow just sitting around the bar, but luckily I got my good friend Jake, who is on the road. I'm going to call him. He's on the call, and he's going to join us in this show. Jake, how's it going, man?
Hey, Drew, how's it going, man? Day 2 on the road, guys. Thanks for bearing with us. We turn off the sound on my computer. No, man, it's good. It's good. I am broadcasting live from an Arby's parking lot here in beautiful Michigan.
No. It's a 5-star restaurant, man. Arby's? No.
I did make
restaurant.
it back to the hotel just in time for the show. Obviously, I'm excited, Drew, because I know we have a lot to talk about, and all of which I've had very little time to prep for. So I don't know about you, man, but I think it's going to be a fun, fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants kind of show.
They're the best shows we have.
Absolutely.
Guys, we're going to go ahead and hit some preseason injuries and talk a little bit about is preseason too long? Should they cut it? Jake, just to let you know, I'm getting echo in my sound, so I don't know. I don't know if they're getting echo. Guys, are they getting an echo?
Let me try putting some headphones.
Well, anyways, I'm going to keep on rolling. Just to let you know, we're going to talk about some preseason injuries and if preseason should be shortened or not. I know we kind of had that discussion already when Sharif joined us, but we're going to hit it a little bit more because now some significant injuries have happened. We're also going to talk about Dwight Howard possibly going to the Lakers. What does that mean? Does that mean that they fill the hole that Cousins have left with his injury, or does it really not mean a whole lot for the Lakers and their push towards their postseason, the NBA season? And if I can remember what else we're going to talk about right now, I think we're talking about Zeke Elliott's supposedly contract that's been offered to him and where that puts him and where that puts the Cowboys going into this season as well.
You missed me yet?
Yes, very much.
All right, well, let's get into it, man. What are we starting by talking about?
Let's go ahead and talk about Dwight Howard going to the Lakers.
All right, well, Dwight Howard obviously signing a non-guaranteed contract to join the Lakers. He's back, man. After that first stint out there in L.A., I would not have believed he was coming back or he was going to make it back. But that just shows you how desperate the Lakers are to fill out as many bigs as they can with the loss of DeMarcus Cousins. I think they're going to lean more on Dwight Howard than they necessarily want to as a franchise. The question is he going to mess up that franchise? And can they keep the locker room in order with a guy with as big of a personality as Dwight Howard has?
Yeah, it surprised me too that that's their option after Cousins goes down with an injury. But, I mean, does Dwight Howard have it anymore? Does he even really fill the void that Cousins was going to have? I don't know if I believe this is a great Band-Aid. Go ahead. I'm just saying, I don't know if this works.
I think this is the exact same type of move, Drew. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins has been that same guy that we're like, hey, does he still have it anymore? Nobody knows. And teams have kind of bet on him saying, hey, maybe we can get him back closer to his ceiling. I think Dwight Howard's the same guy. This is a roll of the dice for sure, but it's a really cheap one. He's a guy that's going to be filling up one of their 15 roster spots. You already have LeBron. You already have Anthony Davis. This is more of a depth move that can eventually turn into a superstar if you get the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, it's a non-guaranteed contract. He kind of starts messing up in the locker room and everything, and you boot him out of there.
I hope it works. I'm going to catch up to some of these comments. James, glad you could join us, man. I'm glad you guys can bear with us at our technology woes. Ian, it's always good to see you as well. Chris, thank you for being here. Ken says, how about those Chiefs? I know you're about to go see them live tomorrow when they play the 49ers in the third preseason game. And Ian says, no, as a Lakers fan, no, he does not want Dwight Howard back. It's very hard with an echo.
I don't blame him for that either. I don't blame him for that either. So it's one of those moves that maybe Dwight Howard can give you a little bit of something, but this definitely comes with risk. I mean, we were talking about the Lakers still being one of the top teams in the game. The question to me is does he throw that off? Is this a negative move? Would the team be better off without signing him? I'm going to say you're still better off having him than not.
I think the difference between Cousins and Howard is Cousins hasn't been able to stay healthy. Yeah, Dwight Howard's had some injury issues, but he's played. I mean, he's played for the Atlanta Hawks. He's not anywhere near what he used to be. If you're talking about the Dwight Howard 5-7 years ago, this is another big three for the Lakers to maybe push for a title. I don't know how excited anyone should be as a Lakers fan seeing Dwight Howard re-sign with this team. Like you said, it's just a roster filler. But what about some young talent? What about someone that hasn't had a chance yet? I mean, it's going to be a lot less on the pocketbook, and you might actually find a gem in the rough somewhere.
Drew, did you mute the Facebook video?
It's not up, man.
Oh, it's not up. Okay. Well, I'm not sure where we're getting our echo then, but we are getting an echo. I'm going to try to see if I can fix it on my end here really quick. But at least with the Dwight Howard thing, before we move on here, I want to say that, again, the Lakers might still have the best big three when it comes to big men in the league at this point. They're going to be playing some dominating basketball, which is going to be interesting because for years now, teams have tried to go play small ball, right? They've tried to bring in small 1 and 2s that are really talented to hit the three. We're starting to see teams kind of fade on that a little bit with both Kawhi and George going out there to the Clippers, and now the Lakers bring in a bunch of we're starting to see them swing back towards the big man in the NBA. Do you think we're seeing a culture change right now?
Then again, I'd have to say if Dwight Howard was 5-7 years ago, maybe. I mean, I know Anthony Davis is a big guy, but he doesn't play like the big man of old. I mean, he is kind of a hybrid now of a bigger guy, right? I mean, he got the jump shot. He's not like Shaq where he just dominates the center of the paint.
No, I wouldn't say he's dominant, but again, he's had dominant performances in years past. Maybe put him around 2 other stars where it's not all focused on him. You can get more of that top-level play out of him. It's not a home run for sure, right? I mean, there's no guarantee this works. But if it does help even a little bit, I think the Lakers aren't crazy for going and trying it.
I can't blame you there either. Hopefully you can figure out your technology issues. It seems like your camera's going in and out. Ian says Dwight gave up on L.A., and now he's back. He said, oh, hells no. I mean, he's just about, hey, this is a team that you gave up on, and now you're coming back in because we need you. I mean, I think I'm with Ian here. I think there's probably a young talent somewhere that you might find, a diamond in the rough. You know what you get with Dwight Howard. I don't know if this helps LA Lakers at all towards the push to the off or the postseason. I just feel that way. I know you feel a little bit different. I know he's filling a roster. He's a veteran, but Ian's got a point. He gave up on the Lakers. I mean.
Sure, but that was a different Lakers team, right? You didn't have LeBron and Anthony Davis that could help carry the weight. This was supposed to be it's a different era. You're not bringing him in to be the number 1. So, again, if he's not working out, you give him the boot, right?
Right. Scott says, it looks like the G-men got their man after all. Do you believe the hype behind Daniel Jones?
It's the preseason. Don't buy any of it. I always say that. Yes, we're seeing some stuff we want to see, which is accuracy, especially from the pocket. We've also seen a couple bad fumbles. But don't buy into any of it, Scott. It's one of those things that you need to see real footage before we're going to sit there and crown this guy. He's playing against backups. He's playing against guys that might not even make this team at times. He's also just not running anything besides running against anything besides the vanilla defense. He's not running any complex routes necessarily. Don't buy preseason. I never buy preseason at all. It's what you want to see, but on the scale of things that matters, probably a 2 if 10 is the highest.
Yeah, Ian, you're right. It does sound like the caller needs to turn down his phone. And, Jake, you for sure don't have me coming through any speaker, right?
No, I don't.
Hey, that's good old technology, guys. Steven says it's a move within 1 month of the season. Everyone will forget about. Howard isn't going to do nothing. He's washed up. I think, Jake, you're almost alone on this one, thinking that this might be a good move. I know you're not.
Obviously the Lakers think so, too.
Obviously, the Lakers think it's the right move, but, I mean, I'm with Ian. I'm with Steven. I think that you could have gone a completely different direction and found someone a lot cheaper, and it would have probably maybe saved a locker room, because Dwight Howard is a personality, regardless if he's washed up or not. This is used to be a star in the NBA. I mean, he does create a personality issue.
He definitely does. Drew, switch the source to the top one on the list. I'm gonna give you a call here. Just prop your phone up next to the mic, okay? We'll try to work it that way. I can hear the echo too.
What am I doing now?
Okay.
All you have to do is switch to the top scene in OBS, all right?
All right. Guys, bear with us while we deal with our technical difficulties. It was very hard to talk to Jake, and you guys could hear me, and I think we'll have to wait until Jake gives a call in, and then he could join the conversation too. I want to get to some of these comments while Jake calls me. Scott says, I would rather go with a younger talent and recycle an old wire-out talent of Howard. Scott, I'm with you too, man. I'm right there with you. It really honestly blows my mind that that this is an answer for the Lakers to be part of their push towards a postseason. Because let's not forget, bringing in LeBron James, bringing in Anthony Davis, I mean, this is a push to be, a champion. Does Dwight Howard do anything for it? I think it creates controversy. And Jake, Scott's going against you too, man. I don't know if you can hear us or not. Are you there?
Oh, I can hear you. It's one of those. I hope you guys miss me. Again, we're back. One of these days, I promise, I'm going to figure out how to work a computer. Until then, let's talk about Dwight Howard really quick, Drew. And I get where Scott's coming from. There is a lot of risk in this move, but it's kind of a low-floor move where if it doesn't work out, you're cutting a guy whose money isn't guaranteed. They've almost sent the message to Dwight Howard that you have to get right with this team that's already in the locker room. You have to slot into place, or we can cut you without any kind of penalty to the team. There's no faith shown to you at all. I think when you talk about Dwight Howard, yes, is he going to be the same guy he was before? No, absolutely isn't. But you need to look at what Dwight Howard can do and what he's done in the past. Maybe a couple of years, he was playing on teams for the Lakers that weren't necessarily good enough to win, and it wasn't fair to say, oh, this is all Dwight Howard. He can be the number one that wins this championship. Now he's playing with LeBron. Now he's playing with Anthony Davis. You don't need an every-night superstar. You need a guy who can be a superstar one night out of the week when you really need him to step up.
I think the Lakers are hoping you're right. I honestly do. I'm kind of with.
And again, I'm not saying the Lakers won anything by signing him, but Drew, I can be the odd man out here. I'm okay with it. Nobody has to agree with me, and I get your point. I get everybody's point here. I think it's one of those moves that this might help the team, it might hurt them, but it's better to roll the dice and play things a little aggressive when you're trying to win a championship than it is to sit back and say, I guess we'll get by, because right now they've got Anthony Davis, who's injury prone. They have LeBron James, who got hurt last year for the first time almost in his career. I think the Lakers have to make a move, and they have to get aggressive here to give them a little bit of insulation in case they do lose one of these guys. At this point of the year, there's not many other better options than getting someone like Dwight Howard.
Well, Sharif is throwing out some options right now, and I'm going to slaughter this guy's name. It says Spriggets is a perfect fit. He's a decent big, and he can shoot the three. He also throws out, if Noah has beef with LeBron, that might have been a good fit. And, gosh, I'm going to slaughter all these names. I need you here to tell them. Gortat, I always forget, Gortat. Gortat, there you go. Is a cheaper version of Howard. I mean, Sharif just thrown out three people right there that might actually push a little bit more towards the postseason. I mean, this is what the Lakers are trying to do, right? Win another championship.
Right, and Martin Gortat, even though at this point he's looked much more like Howard has, I'd never say he was ever a superstar, right? We saw some good years with him when Washington was stacked up and ready to make a run with John Wall that never really came together. As for whether Kobe has beef with Howard or not, doesn't matter. At this point, the Lakers need to win. You can't worry about what your players in the past think. This is all about what can you do to win a championship if Dwight Howard makes that happen. Hey, I mean, Kobe, thanks for everything you did, but having Kobe like somebody on the team doesn't get you any closer, or not like somebody on the team, doesn't get you any closer to winning a championship in 2019. I think that's what you have to think of if you're a GM. Also, Mo Spates, I don't know. Again, yes, you could probably go that direction, but are you getting a home run hitter with him? No, you're probably getting a role player, and maybe that's what Dwight Howard's going to be, but this was a GM rolling the dice saying, I hope I can get the best out of Dwight Howard during a short span. Kind of like we saw DeMarcus Cousins with the Golden State Warriors this year, where for a couple games there, towards the beginning half of the series, he looked like the old DeMarcus Cousins, didn't he? I mean, he basically won Game 2 for Golden State. If they get a game in the finals out of signing Dwight Howard, this move is 100% worth it, right?
No, I mean, you're right. I can't fight with you there. John, Ian is right. Jake is in Michigan. And Matthew says, well, I can get used to this. No offense to Jake. I love it, Matthew. I appreciate it, man. Well, do you have any more final thoughts on Dwight Howard going to the Lakers?
No final thoughts, I'd say. I think this is, again, a move that might certainly come back to bite the Lakers, but right now it was probably the best move and cheapest move they could make to get closer to a championship than with where they're at. I can't say even someone like Spacer Gortat would put them that much closer. They'd be a role player. I think they're making this move with the guarantee, or at least the thought process, that they're getting already a role player in Howard who might eventually get back to his elite level.
It's a big hope there. I don't think he could do it anymore. I don't see it either. Steven says Lakers in the finals on PlayStation 4.
Oh, you already know they're going to be good on 2K.
Oh, man. Well, let's go into preseason injuries. There's a couple big names out there. Obviously, the headlines right now is Cam Newton has his foot sprained. There's also Jordan Reed with a concussion. Ben Watson with another concussion. I don't know the numbers exactly off the top of my head, but I know it's somewhere around 80-plus players are already on injured reserve. Close to 30 players are indefinitely out. This is over 100 players so far going into week 3 in the preseason that's that's out of these teams. When you cut down to a 53-man roster, I mean, this is kind of significant because you got to think these 100-plus players in a cap, with a hard cap like the NFL is, they're all getting paid. Is the preseason too long? I mean, it's a big question. It's been a question for a few years now, Jake.
Well, I know we all say the preseason's too long, but let's face it, teams need this time in training camp to get everything going smoothly and launching the NFL season the way teams want it to go. Even if they weren't playing the preseason games, they'd probably need just as long to work out and set up game plan. And that's where a lot of these injuries come in. Yes, we do see some in the live games. Yes, we see some because guys are trying to prove a point or trying to make a name for themselves and going out and hitting harder than they need to. But I don't think shaving off 2 games is going to be a huge, significant boost to overall health in the NFL. This is just the way things are, especially with concussions, the way they're measured now. You're going to see more injuries because they're better at evaluating when a guy's concussed. In the old days, they just slap you on the helmet so they get back in there.
I mean, that's just 2 concussions off of 2 bigger names in Jordan Reed and Ben Watson. I mean, there's ACL tears, there's tons of high ankle sprains. There's a lot of things going on right now to a lot of these players because they're having to be out there for a longer season because of 4 preseason games. There's 3 things that teams try to do when they go into these preseason games. The first one is cut your team down to a 53-man roster and make sure when you do that, you don't cut a star or you don't cut an up-and-coming star. You need to make sure you find the perfect 53. After that, you want to make sure that you're coming out healthy. You want to make sure all your people that you rely on for 16-game season and hopefully for a lot of teams, the postseason, that all these players are healthy. And then finally, the third is to get anyone that's not prepared ready for the regular season. So someone like Cam Newton, I know he has a shoulder injury. I know he missed a little bit of last year. But how important is it for Cam Newton to be sitting out there? How important is it for Jordan Reed, who's had tons of injury issues, being out there? I mean, historically, week 3 is dress rehearsal for the first team offense and then and defense. And then after that, week 4, it's all second and third string teams. So is it necessary to have your starters out there for all 3 of these games? And another point I want to get across here is this does cost teams to travel and put their team in hotels and move all the equipment and everything like that. You're paying the wages of your equipment managers and all that stuff. Let alone a lot of these stadiums are not selling out. I can't.
No, but they are selling the tickets. And here's the thing. If you want to own season tickets in the NFL, and a lot of fans do, especially for the bigger teams, they usually have waiting lists for their season tickets. You have to buy the 2 home preseason games. So even though they're not showing up, and you're probably missing a little bit of revenue when it comes to selling sodas and beers and hot dogs at the actual game, you're still selling that $50, $100, $200 ticket to the same person that has the PSL. So, yes, Drew, I get it. There's still an expense with having to move people, but let's not – even though the games look bad on TV, the NFL is still making out like some fat cats because they're selling 10 of those season tickets for the same price you'd sell a regular season. They're getting 10 tickets that are costing exactly the same, even though there's only 8 games people want to see.
No, and I'm there with you, and I get it, but not every team has sold all their season tickets. I could think of three.
Sure.
I could think of 3 teams in Miami that I'm sure we can go right now and buy season tickets for those 3 teams. And this is
And one there in Nashville by you.
exactly, and this is this is an issue for some of these teams. And I'm with Steven. The international games need to go. The field last night was an embarrassment. It's preseason, but neither team could play starters for even a drive for the third preseason game. It was embarrassment. There's no doubt about it. And I've read into a little bit more of it. There's a guy that used to do all the fields for the NFL that evaluated him too, and the NFL decided to go a different direction a few years back, and he no longer does it. And I'm not blaming the guy that's in place of that guy. I don't know his name, but what I've read is that he would have been there and made sure that never have happened. And this is something the NFL needs to take into consideration, is because their push is international. I mean, we all know that we play multiple games in England. There's a game in Mexico, and there's even further reach of that is in talks. And there needs to be a guy or a system in place where these players are healthy. I remember a few years back, the Ravens head coach who won him the Super Bowl. What's his name? Billick, yeah. Yeah, he showed up to a preseason game, and the field was unplayable, and he put his players back into the bus and left. I mean, this is an issue. You don't want people, especially your third preseason game, because, like I said, this is a dress rehearsal for your first team offense and defense to play. This is where you get your team ready to roll into week 1. You can't have these mistakes. Not a billion-dollar corporation like the NFL.
I'm with you, Drew. I think this is a good thing it happened in the preseason. Can you imagine if they tried to do this in the regular season and we had these kind of things? Because we know the players would play. We know the teams would be out there saying, we need this game to make the playoffs. You wouldn't have anything where the guys are getting back on it or you're sitting all the starters. Can you imagine Aaron Rodgers, who's had trouble with injuries, going out into a field like that and getting hurt? I mean, how upset would you be as a fan to see your guy who was forced to play this game and your season get derailed on something that you can't control and something that should be fixed? I'm with you. It's unacceptable. At least it happened in the preseason, though. That's all I can say. At least it's a game that didn't actually matter. Yes, It's still the dress rehearsal, but, I mean, if you're Aaron Rodgers, how much of a dress rehearsal do you really need?
Right. Chris, Jake is on the road, but he is with us on the phone. You just get a look at my beautiful smiling face during this episode. Steven says Mexico had the same thing last year on their field. Also, the laser pointer incident in Mexico 2 years ago. He says he's tired of these games. Well, I do.
And if you remember the Chiefs...
I was just about to bring it. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just about to bring up the Chiefs team. Last year in the AFC Championship game, there's a laser pointer on Tom Brady. I mean, that's an issue. Unfortunately, has nothing to do if it's in Mexico or the United States. But I agree. I mean, they do need to kind of regulate this stuff, and I don't know how to do it. I mean, do you pat every single player, every single fan down? I mean,
you'll never catch them.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
It won't happen.
You can't
they
do
their
that.
Best to try to find them when they're actually at the game, but it's one of those things that if you want it in there, you're going to get it in there.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. But
for the field, I was going to say Kansas City did miss, the Chargers in Mexico City last year, I think, and instead got to play a road game that would have counted as a road game, go to Mexico City, and to go play the Chargers out of their comfort area. I think this is an interesting setup, especially for a team that has to go and give up a home game to do it. I know they do it to teams that are underperforming at home more often than not, like the Jaguars go and play in London when they're not selling tickets in Jacksonville, but it does add an element of, if that's your favorite team, like the Chargers last year, if you've got to go play road, what would be a home game out in London and out in Mexico City, it's like an extra couple road games every year. It affects your chances of getting to the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. Scott said there should be no preseason. He said this game is too rough for games not to matter. Do you agree with that, Jake? I mean, we're all talking about concern about these, the health of players and their stars and the longevity of their career. Maybe they end preseason altogether.
You also don't want guys going in totally cold that aren't ready to be hit. I mean, we've kind of seen some injuries creep up when they took out a lot of the hitting at practice, and that sounds counterintuitive, but it's almost like guys aren't ready for when the hits start to roll in. I don't know that canceling the preseason entirely fixes everything, but I think there needs to be some way to manage the injuries versus, there's a certain level of risk and reward in what they get out of it. They do definitely get better from playing in the preseason. I just don't think canceling it is going to be good for the game. I think you're going to see a lot more injuries. I think it's something that they need to find the right balance, and if that is shortening it, then go ahead and do it. If it means more contact drills in practice, work with the NFLPA and find a way to make that happen. But until we see a collective bargaining thing, they're not going to play. They're not going to be more hits in practice either.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Ian says the only international games should be in Toronto or Vancouver. So he's saying to keep them in the North America. I mean, is that realistic? I mean, that's not what the NFL wants. I mean, the NFL wants to bring in fans from Europe. They're also looking at games in like China. I mean, it doesn't go in the game. Or not the game. It doesn't go in the business plan the NFL is trying to do, Ian. Obviously, that makes sense because I think they could regulate it a little bit more, considering, Canada's right next to us. It's not a lot of travel, but the NFL's made out of tons of money. What does it cost the NFL to send some of their best field operators to China or Germany or England for 2 weeks to prep for this game? It's going to cost them literally nothing. I mean, I see what his point is. That's not the business plan of the NFL right now.
And I'm with you, Drew. If the NFL is going to do it, and I'm also with Scott and Ian and everyone saying that the international games haven't been good enough, at least lately, for what it's been, it's time for the NFL to put up or shut up. If they want to keep having international games and they want to have that kind of ambitious schedule, then they need to find a way to make it work, and it needs to be right the first time. I think you're right. You could send people out there to inspect the fields long before these games happen and make sure everything's fine up until then. The problem is a lot of these stadiums are in use, so you're not going to get it 2 weeks ahead of time. They're going to be doing something else with the stadium, whether they're playing soccer, whether it's any sort of arena event. Odds are there's someone in there. It's not sitting empty. So I think that's where part of the problem comes in. But I think we all agree the NFL just needs to get better.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. Steven says the Raiders have had 5 straight seasons of international games and that all have been home games. He's a little bitter. Man, that goes with the territory of having an international favorite team like the Raiders, man. That's just what it is. Your fan base is literally all over the world, and it's what Al Davis wanted, And
you see him travel a lot to Mexico because there are a lot of fans in Mexico of the team, and they want to sell tickets while they're there.
Same thing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have a huge following over in London, and that's why you see them playing games over there. It just comes with the territory. I hate to break it to you, man, but as a Raiders fan, you might want to get a little used to it.
Maybe it changed when they moved to Vegas, but I don't see it. I mean, maybe moving them out of California, they find another team like the Chargers to take their place. That might be why we saw them play in Mexico here recently. But I wouldn't bet on it. I think the Raiders are going to keep going there until, as long as they have fans, the Raiders could be in Mexico a lot.
So Scott says the only players that should play in the preseason are not signed or trying to make the team. And Bees, I'm glad you could join us, man, says, remember Khalil Mack last year, no preseason, no OTAs, and just beasted it. Well, of course, not every player is Khalil Mack.
Yeah, we can't all be Khalil Mack, can we?
No, but he's got a point.
And I'm not saying every guy needs it. A lot of guys can work on their own, but how many guys have the discipline to show up to the gym when nobody's making you? I mean, we see guys come into camp overweight all the time. You need the conditioning, and you need the game planning. I get it. Khalil Mack had some work, but I also think outside linebacker that's going to rush the quarterback almost every time probably has less to learn than someone like a receiver that's got to go focus on a bunch of routes, especially if they're young and they need to learn, or they're on a new team, they need to learn how all the offenses run, all the new terminology. A lot of guys need a lot of time in preseason. And Khalil Mack obviously hit the ground running last year.
Right.
Not everyone can play outside linebacker and just rush. Some people have to be safety. Some people have to be receivers. Some guys have to be quarterbacks with new teams or young quarterbacks that need to learn. They all need to be in that preseason and that training camp. And that's where the injuries come in. So, again, what's the right balance?
I mean, they need to find one. The NFL seems to have a lot of problems. Of course, what I care about is a regular season. As long as all my players stay healthy, I got nothing to complain about. Steven says he agrees, but they shouldn't be all considered home games. Steven, I'll give you 2 reasons why I think they're home games. The first one is your fan base is bigger out in other places, and especially in Mexico, than, like, let's say, the Kansas City Chiefs. It would be considered a home game because I guarantee you, the stadium's get filled up with more Raiders fans and Chiefs fans. Beyond that, I also think it has to do with the fact of Oakland and that stadium. Not only was the NFL having issues with the stadium and Oakland, the town, I just don't think it was fit for an NFL team, and I think that they were trying to get as many games out of there as possible, and that's, again, why you see them in Vegas.
Absolutely, and we also saw it out of Buffalo. I mean, they only played they played 4 games at Orchard Park and 4 across the border in Canada too. So, yeah, I think the stadium comes into a big part of their decision on who goes international overseas and who stays home.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. There's tons of comments here. Scott, Bees, and James are all saying that this preseason game should be nothing but backups, and starters and professionals shouldn't have to get ready. They should always be ready. I mean, Sports Around the Bar community is a small percentage of the NFL fans as a whole. But I mean, there's an outcry that this is ridiculous. I mean, I'm kind of with them. I'm all about more football, but if we're talking about losing, if I was a Panthers fan right now, I'd be infuriated.
Well, the reverse of that is, why is Cam Newton playing? Why are they putting him out there? Yeah, I know you want him to be ready, and he's probably one of those guys that could use some preseason, but weren't we just talking about his shoulder injury having him questionable up to week 1, and you're going to throw him right in the flames and have him play in the preseason? I get it. It's that risk versus reward. You want your guys to be ready and prepared and in rhythm for week 1, because you don't get many chances at the season. You know you have a slow start that can do it for your team for the year. But like you said, Drew, if they wind up missing him for a couple weeks here, you get the shit end of the stick on that one.
Yeah, when we go into Cam Newton, I mean, let's just be completely honest. If you watch that game against the preseason game against the Patriots, his offensive line was atrocious. I mean, there's some issues with Carolina's team, regardless if it's Cam being hurt or not. I don't care. If Cam is healthy, he's not going to be able to survive a full season anyways if that offensive line allows him to get blown up like that. I mean, he was completely unaware. Maybe that's a little bit of rust. Maybe that's why you need preseason games, to get him used to that pressure being on his backside like that. But, I mean, this team has a lot more question marks besides Cam. But losing Cam, again, I think this is just – it's kind of the writing on the wall. Everything we said about Cam Newton is, how long can his body last the punishment that they're putting him through? And finally, I think it's starting to wear, man. It's starting to show exactly what we all were concerned about.
I agree. One quick comment here by Bees. He said, add one more regular season game and only do 2 to 3 preseason games where only backups play. That way, one extra regular season game can make up for any early mistakes. I understand where you're coming from. The other thing is, you say only backups are allowed to play, but teams already have that option. They don't have to play their starters, and what's stopping someone from manipulating their depth chart and saying, Tom Brady's our second string quarterback. I guess he's playing in the preseason because we want him to get him some work, or vice versa. I mean, this is all up on the teams. Nobody's forcing the teams to play their guys.
Sure.
The NFL isn't, and we've seen that, right? The first 2 weeks, we didn't see Aaron Rodgers at all. We didn't see a lot of quarterbacks for the first 2 weeks of the preseason.
Right.
Because teams are starting to lean more towards give them less work and keep them healthier going to the season.
Right. Drew Brees won't even touch the field.
Absolutely. So the teams already have these options, right?
Right.
I don't know that mandating that they're only allowed to play in backups really helps that, because they'll just manipulate their depth chart and say, this guy that I want to work is now my backup.
Let alone you got rookies that are need this time. I mean, I'm with you. It's like a double-edged sword. You really can't fix it without keeping something there, but then you always got to take the risk of someone getting hurt. I'm there with you. As far as 17 games go, I'm totally against any kind of push of making the regular season longer. And I say that very understanding that I love more football. But when you add that one game, I mean, it changes everything about what the NFL was. Records are going to be broken, and I know that sounds so small amount of what one game can mean, as far as, like, as Bees puts it, breaking a tie and stuff like that. But I don't ever want to forget where the NFL was and where it became. And I'm kind of with Ian. 16 games just feels right.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of calls into question records like the Patriots having their undefeated season the next time somebody else does it. We said it when the Patriots won. Are they better than the Dolphins that went undefeated? Are they better than anyone in history because they're the first 16-0 team? I think it throws a lot of those things out the window a little bit when the next guy comes up and beats your record.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, there's all these great comments. Scott says, big players can, for an example, get plenty of contact during practice, or most can. Sometimes you got to back up defensive players wanting to tackle Cam Newton.
That's why they wear red. I'm with you, though. Guys are out there to prove the point. I mean, we saw one of the Texans get kicked out of their scrimmage they had. I think it was with the Patriots because he was throwing hits on people. I can't remember who they were scrimmaging against, but they threw out one of their back burners because he was out there hitting guys in a non-contact practice because he wanted to prove, look how tough I am, yada, yada. And you're absolutely right. You got to remember, a lot of these guys only have a couple weeks to try for their entire livelihood because if they don't have a good preseason, there's a good chance their NFL career comes to an end. So that is definitely a huge part of it. You have guys that are desperate to make something happen and desperate to look good, going out there and hitting guys that just want to survive and just don't want to, just don't want to get injured or just want to go through the motions. It's definitely a dangerous scenario.
Yeah, no doubt. Quincy, I'm glad you could join us, man. He says that true. Everyone wants a name, and someone who took out Cam Newton, even though there wasn't a significant play that was the one that hurt him. I mean, you're right. There's definitely people that are trying to make a name. I mean, Eric Reed was one of the reasons why Ben Watson is the reason why Ben Watson is in concussion protocol. I don't know if Eric Reed needs to make more of a name for himself than he already has, but he is one of those players that went out there and did that. B says, well, what about when they went from 12 to 16 games? That's a huge change, and you're absolutely right. And I know there was tons of fans out there like myself where they're sitting there going, this is going to change all the past games and stats and stuff like that about what it meant to play 12 games and change it to 16. And I'm sure there was a lot of outpour about the not wanting that to happen. Of course, I was not alive, I believe, when that happened. I can't remember when that happened. Jake, do you remember when that happened? I don't think I was alive.
Not off the top of my head.
I think that was way before my time. So, I'm there with you, man. But I think also the NFL was growing and they wanted a bigger market and more entertainment. And 12 weeks felt short to them, and they went out and pulled 16 weeks. They had that extra month in there, and I agree with you, man. It was a huge change, but now it's been quite a while that it's been 16 games. Just one game to help preseason get shortened and keep people healthy makes sense because first week in, even in a 17-game stretch, you could still get hurt.
Yeah, and just going back to the comments here, Scott said in the preseason games, players are trying to make a spot. That's what I'm talking about. You have guys trying to make a spot that aren't necessarily on, they're either on the bubble or not even close and need to find their next tryout with another team. And then you've got guys like Derek Carr that they're not really battling for a spot, right? Cam Newton, he's not battling for a spot. Those guys are going out there trying to hit guys like Cam Newton, trying to make a point that, hey, I deserve to be in the league, and that's what makes it dangerous. When you've got someone out there to prove something, and then someone like a Cam Newton, like an Aaron Rodgers, that's just going through the motions, that can lead to some injuries. I mean, you're not getting a guy going 100% that's going to go get hit by someone that's, putting in 110.
Yeah. Of course, watching that game, I probably would have pulled Cam Newton after the first series. I don't know if you guys have a chance to go back and watch that game, but Carolina's offense was atrocious, and it's a lot more problems than Cam Newton. I do want to hit this one comment after the game was said. They asked Eric Reed what he thought about Cam Newton, and he said, and out of context because I'm not remembering exactly what he said. He said he all hopes that Cam is fine, but he says they should really honestly talk about Colin Kaepernick getting a chance if Cam can't go. Jake, what do you think about that comment?
You got to know ticket sales comes with it too. We were just talking about the NFL as a business, and there's still people that, regardless of where you fall on the issue, there are people that will be unhappy with the signing of Colin Kaepernick. Not to mention, the guy was kind of a fringe starter when he left. I mean, this was a guy who got benched in favor of Blaine Gabbert. Let's not pretend like your career's off to the races when Blaine Gabbert's taking your spot. I don't know. He's been out of football now 3 years. I wouldn't fault them necessarily if they said, hey, he's the best. He gives us the best chance of winning because we don't like what our backups look like. But there's some blowback that comes with it. And I know Eric Reed and Colin Kaepernick are both tight, and they're both, two of the first guys that took a knee. it would be really tough, I think, for the Panthers to make that move.
Yeah,
I don't see it from a business standpoint, number one, and from a football standpoint. You're probably not getting the guy that took his team to the NFC Championship twice and the Super Bowl once. I think you're probably getting the guy that's been out of football for 3 years and was struggling at the tail end of his career anyway.
Right. Jeremy, I'm glad you could join us, man. Well, you got to remember, Eric Reid was actually right next to Colin Kaepernick as the first deal happened and kneeled with him. I think it's just because he's a quarterback, his name became the bigger part of it, and they kind of forgave Eric Reid a little bit sooner, or probably completely, considering he's playing now for a second year back.
That could be part of it, but I think a lot of that's talent, too. Again, Colin Kaepernick was kind of starting to trail off a little bit, where we were seeing him struggle with errant throws. We were seeing him struggle to get wins, and then Blaine Gabbert came in and won a couple games for the 49ers. That to me does not signal a quarterback that's towards his apex. I think Colin Kaepernick worked really well with Jim Harbaugh in his system specifically for him. The question is, can the Panthers mimic that system well enough to get something out of Kaepernick? The other thing is Eric Reid definitely provides value, and even he had to sit weeks into the season before he got signed last year. He wound up working out, and the team decided, yes, this guy has the talent, so it's worth the signing. I don't know that you're getting that same kind of talent out of Kaepernick at this point.
Well, I want to get to some of these comments too, but you got to remember, I mean, Cam Newton is just is a very odd quarterback for the NFL and in the system that North Carolina runs. Colin Kaepernick almost mirrors Cam Newton in a sense as far as his talent-wise. Now, is his throws better or is Cam Newton way better? Yeah, of course. But Will Grier is not a Cam Newton. He's not a mobile guy. He's not a big guy in the pocket. He's not going to do those the quarterback power move right in the middle where they dive in the middle like Cam Newton does. But hey, why not Colin Kaepernick? Why not a guy that could play like six weeks if worst case scenario is and he's out for a while? Why not put a guy in there that you don't have a future with just to mirror what Cam Newton does?
Well, to Scott's point in the comments, this isn't also the first offer that Kaepernick's had. Remember, the Broncos had offered him a contract. He wound up not liking the money and said no. The Ravens were going to offer him a contract until Kaepernick's girlfriend essentially came out and called their owner a slaveholder. You can't look at this and say Kaepernick hasn't had opportunities. He hasn't had the opportunity at where he values himself.
Yeah.
And the question to me is, are the Panthers going to go throw a lot of money at this guy too? That's a great point by Scott. I don't see it. I really don't. I don't see a team giving $20 million to a guy who's been out for 3 years and was starting to tail off in his career. And it's nothing against personally Kaepernick. To me, it's a bizarre move for any team to make at this point. I get it, their backups aren't good enough, but you gotta remember, you're going to lose sales, you're going to lose money from the gate by signing this guy. You better try and do something to bring them back, and the way you do that is win.
Robin, my mom, thank you so much, said 1978 the NFL moved to 16 regular games and 4 preseason games. I knew it was before I was born, but I couldn't verify that. I appreciate that, Mom. Thank you for the stat check. I hear you, man. I get the loss there, but if there is a need of one team that Kaepernick would fit, and it seemed like it would fit almost a mirror image, I think it's Carolina Panthers. And you're absolutely right. Kaepernick has shot himself in his own foot with not agreeing to the contract that the Broncos have offered him, that his girlfriend, or he allows his girlfriend to say that stuff. I know he can't stop her, but he could tell her not to say those comments. But he just posted on his social media just a couple days ago in a workout video, and the tag was, he's ready when called on, or whatever it says, and he's saying he is ready to go back in the NFL. I mean, regardless if he wants a lot of money or not, he's going to have to do the Eric Reid kind of thing, and it's going to, you take your first opportunity and see if you can get back into the good graces of the NFL. If they call for him, which I don't think they will, if he doesn't take it, I think you've definitely seen the last little bit of Colin Kaepernick.
Not to mention, you got to remember that he sued the NFL, saying they colluded against him and everything. You got to remember, these owners are the NFL. They're one of the 32 members of it. So it's kind of like he sued all these owners, and now it's going to them saying, okay, now give me a job. So there might be some hurt feelings with a lot of these owners, where some of them might have had interest, some of them might not have, but it's one of those things that now that the cat is almost out of the bag because he had filed that lawsuit. Obviously, it didn't shake out that way for Eric Reid, but Eric Reid was already on a team when that happened. I wonder if Eric Reid got cut tomorrow, how many teams would be interested in him?
The way he played last year, I'd say quite a few, but maybe I'm crazy.
Well, remember, he played well for the 49ers, got cut, and then he didn't get signed for a couple weeks into the season, and it was only after an injury that the Panthers
that's kind of like
said,
that.
There's nothing else we can do.
That's kind of like that first shock. That was kind of like the aftershock of all the kneeling scenario. I agree with you. The 49ers panicked, and they cut him. And the rest of the teams and the NFL panicked. They saw their viewership fall. They saw a lot of fans not show up to games, people not watching on TV, and they panicked. And I don't blame any team not taking a chance on these guys. But Eric Reid coming back and playing, I mean, he was a big piece of this defense late in the season, and I think he played pretty well. And in my opinion, if you just talk about talent alone and the way he's playing, he deserves a chance somewhere else that Carolina doesn't want him.
Yeah, I'd say, again, are you talking Eric Reid or were you talking Kaepernick there? Sorry, I was reading the comments.
No, you're fine. Eric Reid.
Play-wise, yeah, it's obvious Eric Reid's a starter, but again, it always comes down to does your talent outweigh the problems you bring to the team? And right now, the answer for Eric Reid is yes. I just see Colin Kaepernick. The answer is no.
Yeah. I'm there.
With Zeka here, where he says, "Can you imagine what the press rooms would look like after the games?" Again, it would be mayhem, right? You'd have a lot of people trying to support him. You'd have a lot of people out there trying to tear him down. The press would literally pull this team apart because every article you're writing is sitting there either attacking the team or just kissing their butt where, they can do no wrong because they signed him and we like him, or they're the devil because they signed him and we hate him. They would just absolutely tear this franchise apart. I think even if you're getting some talent on the field, is your locker room mentally stable enough to handle that much attention and that much negative attention on your team?
One thing we also have to remember here is Ron Rivera's on the hot seat. There's no doubt about that this guy is on the hot seat in North Carolina. I mean, how much does that play into effect? I mean, if you think that Cam Newton's down, I know they're saying they're optimistic for week 1, but they don't believe in Will Grier and they don't believe that he can run the system they have in place. You're talking about Ron's job. I mean, does that put pressure on bringing in a quarterback like Colin Kaepernick and you deal with the issues that the media is going to bring and you try to hope that your locker room's strong enough? I mean, you got to think this guy's concerned about his career there. Not that he probably won't find a career somewhere else. I don't know about a head coach, but definitely a coordinator until someone else gives him a chance. I mean, this matters to this guy and the people around him because you got to remember when the head coach gets fired, usually everyone else around him goes with him. Rarely does everyone stay. Oh, you got really quiet somehow. I don't know what happened here. I don't know if that's on my end, man. I didn't do anything.
All right, can you still hear me?
Nope, you're super quiet. Here, let me try to do something, guys. Still bear with us, man. We're trying to... All right, go again, man.
Yeah, if you can hear me, Drew.
I got you fixed. I got you fixed. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, if you can hear me, the one thing I will say about this is even though Ron Rivera's job might be kind of on the hot seat, this comes down to the GM for making the signing because this is the kind of move that if you're costing the owner money, the GM gets his head is the first to roll. Regardless of what Ron Rivera needs to survive, the question is going to be how hot is the seat the GM is sitting on, and he's probably the only guy who knows that. If his seat is hot, then maybe he does this as a last-ditch effort to kind of get the team back on track. If he feels he's more comfortable, again, you're talking about taking massive risk when you could just have a bad season, go get a top pick, and go draft somebody. Even if it means Ron Rivera doesn't return, you get to pick the next head coach.
Yeah, no doubt. I do want to get some more of these comments. Scott says, running quarterbacks just don't win in the NFL. Michael Vick was fun to watch, but he never won anything. Yes, but he did take his team to the NFC Championship game. Just throwing that out there.
Russell Wilson's one. I'd say he's a running quarterback. He throws better than other running quarterbacks, but he's mobile too. We can't. I don't want to diss his physicality. He's definitely one of the most physical quarterbacks in the game. And he managed to win a Super Bowl. I think it just comes down to you need to throw first and you need to keep the hits off yourself. That's something Russell Wilson's always done well, which is slide before the hit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And also, I mean, maybe Steve Young might not like this comment, but Russell Wilson might be the best passer ever as considered a mobile quarterback. I mean, his arm, his accuracy is very good. And I said this many times, and I'll keep saying it. If he played in a different system, we'd probably talk about him being a top-tier quarterback in the NFL.
to Scott's point, though, he is right, and you have to be a thrower. It doesn't matter if you can run or not. That's like the icing on the cake. You have to be able to throw the ball if you're going to succeed in the NFL. That's why I have my doubts about some of these guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson this year, because we've seen the physicality. We've seen the plays with the feet. Now we need to see the plays with those guys' arms before I'm willing to say they're going to be a next-level talent in the NFL.
I don't think anything was ever... Well, it's been 3 years since...
Today. We haven't said anything about it today, but...
Right, I'm just trying to think. I mean, it's been 3 years since Colin Kaepernick has played. I mean, was his accuracy ever really an issue, or is it just the fact that he kind of lost his team?
Towards the end, it tailed off. If you study errant throws, and that's what you want to look at, which is a pass that totally misses the receiver, that the receiver never had a chance to catch. He was ranked 32nd his last year, behind every other starting quarterback. So it was an issue towards the end of it, but their roster declined as well. They were never a wide receiver heavy team when he was there. They had Michael Crabtree, but if you remember, Michael Crabtree struggled in the early part of his career. They had Vernon Davis, who was definitely his best target. But beyond that, they did not have a lot of guys to help Kaepernick out. That could have been part of it. He did struggle towards the end of it to stay accurate. I think a lot of it was Jim Harbaugh, the kind of shock that he brought with the system. And we're also kind of forgetting they had Frank Gore running the ball, a great offensive line in front of him, and if not the best defense, one of the best defenses every year they had success with Kaepernick.
And he took his team to the Super Bowl. And he took his team to the Super Bowl. You can't be 30. You can't be 32nd worst.
Running game, a couple weapons. There's not too many teams that are out there right now, Drew, that can say they have all those things.
No, I'm there with you, man. To be honest, my last point about this whole thing and Colin Kaepernick is I'm with everyone. It would take a very strong locker room, head coach, and front office to allow this guy to put on their uniform and play for this team. Do I think that the North Carolina Panthers should do it? No, I don't. I think that they have they've made their own boat and they need to sink with it. If it's Cam Newton going down with them, then so be it. They went out and drafted Will Grier. I think they should get this young man an opportunity to play, and even if he doesn't match up with the system or not, you don't draft a guy like this and not give him a chance. You should give him a chance, and if it's all 16 games, so be it. See if this guy's your future or not, and if he's not, go and draft one of these top big three quarterbacks next year in this draft. I mean, if Cam Newton isn't healthy, you move on from Cam Newton. That's just how it is.
I think so too, especially running quarterbacks that don't have the same shelf life. Cam's taken more hits than most. I think that's what you can do. He can be your bridge for a couple of years after that, but if you do get a top 3 pick, it's going to be very, very difficult to say we're going to roll with Cam Newton in his 30s for the long-term kind of picture. A couple more great comments I want to talk about here. Scott says the best way to slow down a running quarterback is contact. Pure, rough contact, absolutely. That's how the Broncos beat Cam Newton in the Super Bowl, and we've seen it happen time and time again. You just pop the guy. Even if you're taking penalties, you pop the guy, and eventually you're going to rattle him. He's not going to want to run, or he's going to get hurt, and that's going to slow him down. You're 100% right, but the NFL is trying to take steps to avoid, eliminate some of that. That's why you get like all these sliding penalties now, and head-to-head against a runner when it's a quarterback seems to be called a lot. Quincy went on to say, when a running quarterback has a great year, it seems like they try to protect them from themselves and take some of the running out, and that usually hurts the quarterback. You're absolutely right. I think teams should stay aggressive and say, hey, even if I'm only going to get 8 great years out of this guy, I got to let him do what he does best. But GMs and head coaches are afraid of the kill shot where your starting quarterback gets injured and it derails the entire season. I think that's why they try to slow down these running quarterbacks and why they get so scared to let the guy just, run and keep doing it. It's usually after a hit. You'll see one big hit on the guy, and then they say, okay, it's time to change. We got to change it right now, because they're afraid that their season goes up in flames when you lose that running quarterback. 1 or 2 more. Jeremy said, hell, they almost won the Super Bowl. If he's talking about Kaepernick, they didn't almost win that Super Bowl. If you remember, the Ravens absolutely stomped them until, magically the power went out and gave them 20 to 25 minutes to catch their breath and regroup. They managed to pull tighter to the Ravens, but I think the Ravens would have won that game in a landslide if they would have played it straight through. But they did, they dominated for years. They were very good with Kaepernick, but again, it comes down to having an amazing defense, if not the best, then probably second behind the Ravens. Frank Gore and an amazing offensive line, and Crabtree and Vernon Davis. Those are complete teams.
Yeah, no
I don't
doubt.
want to say they got to the Super Bowl because Kaepernick was a good player. I think he was just the quarterback on a very, very good team.
Yeah, but he obviously played his best season ever in the NFL so far, and it looks like ever for that matter.
And I think
James,
he just fit what Jim Harbaugh wanted to do. I think he fit Jim Harbaugh's scheme very, very well.
James, it's good to see you, man. Quincy said Drew is a great quarterback. I'm assuming he's talking about me, but he be talking about Drew Brees.
He's right on both counts.
Steven says Peterman equals preseason God. He does look really good. He does look really good in preseason.
Yeah, John Gruden loves him too. Like I said, this is why we don't ever believe anything in the preseason, right?
Right.
This guy's a turnover machine anytime he played in Buffalo, and I get it was Buffalo, but we were also seeing him light up the preseason. That's why I'm saying when we see guys like Daniel Jones light things up, take a deep breath, Giants fans. It's great to see, but take it with a grain of salt.
I'm just glad to see an Iowa Hawkeye get another chance to play. That's all I care about. Well, let's go to our final topic. It's rumors about Zeke Elliott being offered a contract by the Dallas Cowboys and also rumored to be put him as the second highest running back in the league behind Todd Gurley. Jake, what does this do for, if it's true, what does this do for the talks between Zeke Elliott and the Cowboys, and does it help them at all that they finally maybe created a line to negotiate around?
Yeah, I think it's great. Again, we're off, Drew. Stop the stream and start it again.
All right, guys, I don't know if you're back or not. We had some technical difficulties again. This time, I don't believe it's us. I believe that it is Facebook, but we hope that you're back with us. Getting back to what we were talking about with Zeke Elliott, and you're saying that he should be the number one priority, and from there you would go on to Dak Prescott. Obviously, they're making him a priority. If this rumor is true and they have offered him money or a contract, I think this is significant. I think this puts a guideline down for this team and their and Zeke Elliott's group and agent to talk about, because realistically, they said, hey, we're not giving you a contract. You're under contract. You've signed it. You need to play this contract out, and then we can talk about it. Cowboys have finally taken the first step in saying, okay, you're right. You are one of the better running backs, if not the best running back in the league. Here is our offer to you. If this is true, you're talking about the Cowboys, like you said, not maybe having a good chance of winning this division, and if not, you're 100% right. I think the Eagles run away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I think Jerry Jones might have thrown up his hands with Dak Prescott and said, look, we offered you 30 and you threw it back in our face. I got to go get somebody under contract here. I wonder what this means for the Dak negotiations and how much money is going to be available to give him on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this many a times, and the money's going to run out. There's no doubt about it. You cannot pay everyone top dollar and keep everyone together. And we, our last episode, I believe it was, we talked about who was the odd man out, and we all thought it was going to be Zeke, but now here he is. He has a contract offer if it's true, and Dak turned down his. Is Amari Cooper the odd man out?
Well, depends. Depends on who. If Jerry Jones is willing to up the ante for Dak Prescott, because if he's not willing to do that and he says 30 is what you're worth, I still think he's going to cave and go there. Then it may be potentially Amari Cooper. I think, again, there's not going to be enough money to pay all these defensive pieces and the offensive players what they all want. The question is, have the Cowboys actually decided they're going to move on from Dak? And if so, again, I think that's the most optimal move. You get rid of the quarterback that's somewhat average and expecting top-tier money, even though he's young and he's had some success when you put a great team around him. There are other guys in the NFL who can succeed with as good of a team as the Cowboys have.
Yeah, and, I've also said as well with that comment, and I completely agree with you, it's not year one that quarterback comes in and is automatically a Super Bowl contender. It's going to have to be a year, and I think when you look across the board on some of these Cowboy players, the offensive line, Jason Witten now, Sean Lee, you don't got multiple years. I mean, I think Jerry Jones is looking at it like it's a win-now scenario, and if it's to keep Dak there and happy and create a small, young core, you always start at the quarterback. No, I'm right there with you. I don't know if Dak is worth $30 million, but he did get offered it and he did turn it down. Scott said he turned it down, didn't he? If you're talking about Zeke Elliott, I don't know. I at least have not read that it's officially true that he got offered a contract. It was rumored. Usually when there's rumors, they're usually true. I just don't know if anything was official. Jake, have you heard?
And everything that I've read has said that $13.5 million, which will put him ahead of Le'Veon Bell, but behind Todd Gurley, is still on the table and still where they're at. I haven't heard anything about him, coming back and saying no, but I have heard that, he hasn't signed it. It's been out there for a couple days at the very least, maybe even as far as weeks, and Zeke hasn't signed it yet. So who knows how close they are. And Jerry Jones came out on the radio down there in Texas and said, he said, I don't think we're super close yet, but we're getting there, and it's something that's going to be done before the season started. I think this 13 number might get closer to 15, whether he's just ahead or just behind Todd Gurley. I think he's going to be right in that neighborhood when all is said and done. I haven't heard it as a hard no, though.
Okay. I want to get to a couple of these comments. Quincy says, but when you have a guy like Zeke already, why not pay him? Jake, you want to answer that?
There's only so much to go around, Quincy, and again, I think Dak Prescott is the kind of the wrench in the works here with him wanting this much money, especially when you've just traded a first-round pick to Amari Cooper. I really can't see the Cowboys letting him walk. I think he's a guy that's going to get paid. They're going to look at that first-round pick they gave up and say, man, we can't give up a 26-year-old Cooper now and that first-round pick because we were too cheap to try to re-sign him. It's not a question of would they pay him if they could. The question is going to be, can they fit it under the cap to make it work, Quincy? Again, Jerry Jones has come out and said that if he could, he would just pay $1 billion and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But the NFL has a hard cap. They can't go over it. There's only so much pie to go around. The problem is I think a lot of these Cowboys are expecting a bigger piece than what the team can give them.
Yeah, no doubt. And I didn't mean to ignore Ian's comment. Ian makes a good point. He says, every year we'll have a Le'Veon Bell, Zeke type of situation, and it will get old.
Until somebody doesn't blink. This is the thing. When you've got a guy like Melvin Gordon under contract for multiple years and he's demanding a holdout, if the team's willing to hold on to him and say too bad, or a guy does hit free agency and nobody gives him that big Le'Veon Bell money, that's when we'll see this start to go away. But you're right. As long as it keeps working, guys are going to keep doing it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, all what they've seen with Le'Veon Bell, it was a smart move. I mean, even though he's not playing with his former team, he's definitely getting paid to play. Zedekiah says, I would do the same as Zeke. He has leverage for like 2 to 3 more years max after that curb. I think that's the issue. I think that's one of the biggest issues with Zeke is, that the position he plays. There's definitely a significant drop off at 30. He has been used immensely in this Cowboys organization, and both sides have every reason to kind of sit there and waver on this thing. Zeke's like, you use me and abuse me, I only got so much left, pay me. And the Cowboys are like, well, I don't know how long you're going to have. I don't know if we can pay you.
Yeah, and if the NFL wanted to avoid this, they could also up the amount of starting money for rookie running backs. This is where it's all coming in, essentially. I mean, I think Le'Veon Bell had gotten an extension from the Steelers. I don't think he was quite on his rookie contract. But guys like Zeke and Melvin Gordon are playing for severely under their value in the free market. I mean, right? What was it, $3 million for Zeke this year, or maybe $5 million?
No, it was 3 something.
Especially for a first-round running back, if you up that money a little bit, you're going to have less guys that are just so fed up saying, I'm putting my career on hold, or I'm taking a risk by playing this, and I may never get paid because of it. If you up that money to begin with, will they do that? No, because you like having the cheap running backs, right? Everyone does.
Yeah. Jeremy, the contract to be rumored was between Gurley on Le'Veon Bell. Jake, what'd you say, like 13 something?
I saw 13.5 was the rumored amount, which puts him just over Le'Veon Bell and a couple million behind Gurley. I think Gurley's in the 15s.
Yeah. I know that he's.
Get those problems.
I would have already signed the contract.
Exactly.
Frank, it's good to see you, man. I don't know what else I could say about this thing. I feel like we have literally dug a hole in this Cowboys offseason. My last little comments toward this whole thing is just the fact that I don't think you get the same kind of team with the Cowboys without Zeke Elliott. I know you can sit there and throw a running back and use him in there, and you might still be second in your division and maybe find yourself in the playoffs. But I think if you want to win that division, have a home field advantage, and win a couple games of playoffs and maybe possibly go to the Super Bowl, you need Zeke Elliott, number 21, to do that, in my opinion.
I agree with you. Also, Quincy said he did forget about the hard cap, but owners take cap hits all the time. When they're talking about cap hits there, Quincy, what it means is if you have $200 million to spend and you cut a guy early, $5 million that you were giving to him is less than you can spend on everybody else. So that cap hit would mean you only have $195 to spend. Believe me, there would be a lot of owners in the NFL that if they could just cut a guy, say, I'll pay that money out of pocket and then I get my $200 million back, would do it in a heartbeat. The reason they have that rule in the NFL is that you can't. So that you have to honor your commitments, and you can't just push a guy out the door who might not be performing to that big contract you gave him.
Yeah, Green Bay would have a hard time keeping players there.
Absolutely. And, I mean, a lot of teams would. A lot of teams.
Yeah, it was just the first one I could think of.
Just give them the boot, and the owner pays a little bit more this year. I mean, that's what the NBA does a lot.
Right.
Not necessarily with the cap space, but the NBA, as long as you're keeping your players, you can pay over the cap to keep those guys around. That's why you get super teams formed. The NFL wants more parity. That's why they have it where whatever, if the cap is $200 million, everyone spends $200 million.
Ian, no, I'm glad you changed the subject, and we get so caught up in our all of our talk is we do have the charity still there. Guys, we're playing a fantasy football league for anyone that doesn't know about it. And how we've decided to do that is we're taking donations to St. Jude's Children's Hospital to join the league. And as far as I know, still $1 gets you into the league. Guys, if you don't want to play fantasy football, we understand. We get it. You're busy. Maybe you got 15 other leagues you're part of. But if you just got a little bit of pocket change left in your bank account or underneath the couch, guys, donate it to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. It's one of the best organizations out there. It goes straight to these children and helps battle diseases and cancer and everything you could think of that could harm a child that never had a fair chance at a healthy life. It's super important. And we talked about it for so long about how we're going to do this fantasy league and how we're going to pick out of the thousands of fans we have who's going to be the 11 teams. And we think this is the best way and best opportunity. And if you want to play with us, right now we have the cutoff on the 25th, and we will draft on the 26th with our 11 teams. And me and Jake are that 12th team. We got to team up and be together, and we got to see eye to eye. And I don't know if you watched our fantasy football show at all. We don't see eye to eye, so but beyond that, it's super important that we do try to help our community out. And as much as I enlighten about fantasy football and how much fun we're going to have about it, this is a serious donation. This is a serious passion that me and Jake both have, and we want every child to have a fair chance at a healthy life. And hopefully, we can get the next Tom Brady in a Chiefs uniform out of one of these kids. We don't care if they're Titan players. We want them to be Chiefs fans.
Absolutely. Also, one more quick thing before we move on. Quincy said the NBA players make so much more. A couple points to that, Quincy. There's only 15 guys in an NBA roster. You're talking about 53 guys that need to be paid in the NFL. And not to mention the top guys in the NBA are being paid more than the top guys in the NFL. If you look on average, guys in the middle in the NFL are doing a lot better than a lot of guys towards the middle and bottom ends of the NBA rosters.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Jake. Any final thoughts before I do special thanks?
Oh, if everything works out, I'll be back in studio on Monday. I'm tired of this road stuff. Hopefully we get all these technical difficulties sorted out and something that we won't have to worry about. We thank you guys so much for sticking with us. It was an entertaining show. I wish it would have been a smoother show, but I had fun. I
did too. I always have fun, Jake, when you're with me and we're talking sports. And, of course, all you guys. And comments are going nuts, and I appreciate it, and I'm sorry if I missed you, but special thanks to James, Chris, Ian, Kenneth, Scott, Steven, Sharif, John, Matthew, Chris, Bees, Quincy, Jeremy, Robin, Zedekiah, James, and Frank. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for joining this evening. Jake, you want to send us out?
For Sports Around the Bar, I am Jake. This is Drew. I guess we will see you guys back on Monday to talk about fantasy and I don't remember what else we said, Drew.
Sounds about right, man. See ya.